Persona 5 Royal is home to many supernatural concepts made manifest from the human psyche, whether they take the form of gods, demons, or anything else in between. There's one ability in particular that caught my eye, however, and that ability belongs to the final boss of this game, to which, spoilers, again, I would not recommend watching this video if you haven't beaten the game already. So anyone here who's been forsaken by the autoplay gods, now's your chance to leave. Alright, anyways, this ability, referred to as Actualization in the last arc, belongs to Marky, one of the 3 new interactive confidants, giving him the power to reality warp on what seems to be potentially a global scale if given the time and opportunity. Obviously busted, one of the strongest abilities ever introduced in Persona certainly. The real question is, how did it get to be this way? Well, for starters, the first time Marky taps into this ability happens before the events of the main story, when he attempts to cure his girlfriend Rumi of her trauma. She was left in a catatonic state after she and Marky decided to visit her parents' house, only to find that they had been robbed, murdered, that murderer was still in the house, and that murderer attacked Rumi on his way out. Unlucky doesn't even begin to describe their fate. While in this state, she is almost completely unresponsive and has sporadic episodes of unhinged hysteria depending on any random choice of words Marky says, so the man can't even effectively console her properly. Full of guilt and out of options, Marky can only hope that a solution is found, and that solution comes in the form of his newly awakened persona, Azathoth, based on the supreme and powerful god of the Lovecraftian mythos, said to have formed reality itself in its dreams, and comparatively speaking, one of the strongest personas ever to be conceived. Here we get to see the power of Actualization be used for the first time, as Rumi's request after experiencing an episode was for Marky to stop this torturous experience she's going through, and Marky does just that. Just not exactly in the way he was expecting. In its infancy, Marky's Actualization surprisingly comes with its share of caveats. It can alter a person's cognition and rearrange their memories in a way as a sort of fix for someone's mental trauma, but he can't actually choose which memories get altered, and the results vary depending on a mix of what they desire and what Marky subconsciously believes is the best possible way to help them. For his girlfriend, that manifests itself in her believing that her parents died much earlier in her life, and she's already gone through the residual coping process needed to deal with this, with the unfortunate side effect of never knowing who Marky was to begin with. He really can't catch a break. Now you might be thinking, that seems extremely situational, and you'd be kind of right, at least for now. But more importantly, we've already encountered a major problem. Notice I said he awakened his persona and used its ability in the real world and not the metaverse. That is not how that works, at least not typically. The conditions are usually that you first have access to the metaverse before awakening, and you can only use your persona while in the metaverse. Marky doesn't follow either of those rules, so day -1 and he's already cheating, which he'll be continuing to do with the next target of his pathological altruism, Sumire. Someone who really just gets the short end of the stick of the 2 people I'm talking about, but we'll get into that later. Now, like Rumi, Sumire experiences her own flavor of tragedy with an eerily similar sounding wish to escape the pain she suffers from. Pain caused by surviving a tragic car accident that her sister Kasumi saves her from at the cost of that sister's life, which she would obviously need therapy for, which, surprise surprise, Marky just so happens to be her school's counselor. How convenient. Struggling to overcome her survivor's guilt, she admits wishing to literally become Kasumi so that Kasumi's dream can be realized vicariously through her. What the fuck? And of course Marky grants this because, you know, when I see someone who hates themselves and wants to be somebody else, I just nail that shit. I don't even try to suggest otherwise. Unlike Rumi, however, Sumire, who is now Kasumi, is a character you get introduced to towards the beginning of the game, and is functionally the only character by which we can see the complexities of how Marky's ability works through her perspective. From this, we can see that the nature of his ability's effect on Sumire is obviously very different, since instead of rearranging the order of when events occurred in her mind, she's outright convinced of being a different person entirely. Enabling delusions is all it does, however, as this provides no physical benefits to the person that's been hypnotized. In fact, natural proclivities, underlying mental issues such as depression in this case, and other weaknesses all remain the same, which is a uniquely terrible position for her to be in particular, because without that knowledge, she's incapable of truly understanding those underlying issues, which means she's also incapable of completely solving them. Marky effectively took her thinking privileges away, basically. Like, imagine for a second waking up one morning to the tune of every major aspect of your life being tangibly worse. you feel this uphill battle of pushing against being demotivated from doing anything meaningful, as everything you've ever worked for and were good at slowly and incomprehensibly slips through your fingers. Considering what Maruki's intentions were, that has got to be one of the cruelest forms of irony I've ever seen in a piece of media. Certainly a fate far crueler in my opinion than is given credence to in the game. But it gets worse. Breaking the hypnotism, even with outside interference, is next to impossible, as all of your senses are altered to conform to your delusions as much as possible. An example of this would be how Samiri, for the entirety of being hypnotized, can't actually hear her own name, so as to not break the delusion. Even more harrowing is the fact that Joker, who didn't know who she was prior, also couldn't hear her name, which would seem to imply that the effect of the hypnotism seems to extend to all parties who have no prior knowledge of or interactions with the person before they were hypnotized. Presuming, of course, those people first knew them by their new identity, like in Joker's case. The only way to break free from being hypnotized in this way is to be shown that specific memory that was hidden from your altered cognition, as demonstrated by Maruki in the third semester arc. And you can imagine how much emotional distress this could cause a person just by the look on Samiri's face when it happens to her. That is a gaping expression of horror only found in war-torn villages whose governing bodies strengthen their military by enlisting the help of small children. Anyways, now inarguably the strongest version of this ability is the one shown in the third semester. I stated earlier that one of Maruki's advantages is that he didn't need to be in the metaverse to access his persona. What I didn't tell you is that without the metaverse, he didn't have access to the full thing. So what were to happen if, say, the world and the metaverse fused for a brief period of time, just long enough for such a condition to be fulfilled? Well, let's find out. Upon its complete awakening, Maruki effectively took the position of Yaldabaoth in the sense of having almost complete control over reality due to the Phantom Thief's subconscious desire for certain aspects of their lives to be changed. This gave him the power they used to summon Sentinel, which of course also amps his already busted ability to the nth degree. Most of the changes didn't happen immediately, aside from some rather glaringly obvious ones, with the most notable changes happening a week later. At the same time Christmas was saved from Yaldabaoth, New Year's was stolen by Maruki, along with the experiences of pretty much every major story event and memories thereof for everyone besides Joker. The dead had begun to rise from their narrative graves, people are appearing in places they shouldn't be, Morgana becomes human, and many other such acts of sacrilege, proving that no man can be trusted with that type of power. So what's actually happening here? Has Maruki spurned the heavens in an act of defiance against death itself? Well, yes, technically. But as you're probably used to be saying by now, it's a bit more complicated than that. What's actually happening here is that Maruki is removing their cause of death from existence, so certain events don't play out the way they did in the original reality if they play out at all. For example, Makoto's dad doesn't get assassinated by gang members, so Sai doesn't despise Makoto for having the audacity to exist. Shido is imprisoned long before the events of Persona 5 in this reality for political scandals, so Akechi doesn't fulfill his role as the bastard love child of Light Yagami and Anakin Skywalker, which means Futaba's mom doesn't die and reincarnates into being the easiest boss in the game, along with any other character deaths orchestrated by Shido, and etc, etc. To be more precise with how Maruki is carrying all of this out, it's through his palace, which is connected to the metaverse in the same way Yaldabaoth's Holy Grail was, and is using the tendrils found in his palace to spread his influence. Literally just hacking into the mainframe of the human collective unconsciousness. This gives him data on who people are, what their aspirations are, and what they are potentially suffering from, so he can make those dreams a reality. By altering a person's cognition in this way, a piece of reality is changed along with it. The more reality changes in this manner, the more control over reality Maruki has, making him nigh unstoppable. He's also gaining power naturally as the metaverse and the actual world gradually refuse in that coming month, adding to this effect. Now, there are limitations to his influence. Very few, but they do exist. For one thing, the world is currently unstable in two parts because, as I mentioned briefly earlier, the metaverse and reality in this arc are in a state where they are neither completely fused nor defused, which serves as a double-edged sword for Maruki's ability. He was able to make all of these changes because of that window of opportunity, but many of these changes Maruki makes are colliding with what already currently exists. Other changes Maruki's made literally can't happen without some of the events he's arbitrarily removed from existence. Why would Joker be attending Shujin if he never encountered Shido because he's in jail and has been there for quite some time? What would be the catalyst for the formation of the Phantom Thieves if in this reality they were never negatively impacted by Kamoshida or the other major villains? Why would the fan side exist if its existence is literally predicated on this fact? Why would any of them know or be friends with each other at all? And I know that's the point of the motif of why hardships are necessary for human growth, but you see my point with the examples I'm giving.
This reality is so ironically fragile that when the other Phantom Thieves loosely recall their old memories, it just causes it all to crumble apart. It's like Marky went to the Bethesda School for Open World Development or something. It also serves as a good allegory to how reality ends when Azathoth awakens from its dreams, except in reverse in this case, since it's Azathoth's reality that ends once the Phantom Thieves awaken from their dreams. Anyways, there's one more speculative drawback, and it's that the emotional state of the person could have an impact on Maruki's ability to actualize their wishes. It's not made that clear, but he does say that he won't use his power on Sumire until she calms down, which implies that there are edge cases where his ability can produce a range of reactions rather than just guaranteeing the outcome he wants. Not to mention, when her persona does go berserk, it wasn't exactly saying anything that wasn't accurate to how Sumire felt at the time, so that's up in the air. Lastly, and this is probably obvious, but stealing Maruki's treasure will immediately dissolve any effects his ability had, since it was an extension of Yaldabaoth's ability to Reality Warp, who was the original treasure of mementos. This presumably includes when he used his ability beforehand. So you know what that means.
You're my new best friend!
Last thing to mention, now if say the metaverse actually did completely refuse with the real world, that's GG. Maruki becomes God King of the universe and there's literally no way to oppose him. You know how Yaldabaoth seemingly snapped the Phantom Thieves away before their climactic battle? He'd have that much power and more, just instead opting to spawn you into what's effectively a Twilight Zone surrounded by people wearing the most uncanny expressions of happiness. All appears well on the surface, but you can't escape this nagging, unshakable feeling that something is wrong. Thanks for watching. I may have had a bit too much fun making this one, but I'll let you guys decide that for yourselves. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Also, feel free to request any other related topics you guys want me to cover, and I'll see if I can get to them in the foreseeable future. That's all for now, though. This is Eon saying, I'm out of here.